This might be the first time ever on my channel that I've followed up on a multi-part or multi-episode video series that I've tried, and this one in particular I actually like, so regardless of viewership or anything like that, I planned on continuing it. But as for the other ones, most of them do less than normal viewership, which is completely fine. I'm not trying to throw a pity party for myself or guilt anybody. If you don't want to watch a video, then don't watch the video. That way I know that not too many people are interested in it, and I can move on and make something else. That is completely fine with me. But here we have the second iteration of Broken Planes in AirRB. And again, this series is in no particular order, so just because I put for example, the 163 first doesn't necessarily mean I think it's the least broken of the planes on the list or anything like that. I'm just kind of going through a list in no type of chronological order here. Today, as you see on screen, we're talking about the Su-11, and right now, I guarantee you there's probably somebody typing away their comment talking about how the Su-11's garbage, and it can't turn, it's slow, and it doesn't hold energy, and the guns suck. And that's pretty typical of a premium player that has really never played a jet before, and they usually don't do too well in them, and that's no exception with the Su-11. In fact, half the reason this plane's broken and is going to stay broken for a very long time is simply because Gaijin just balances based off of statistics. And of course, a premium plane is going to be played typically by less than average players who don't know what they're doing, and collectively drag down the entire statistics of a particular aircraft all across the board, and this is especially true with the Su-11. You can see right here I'm engaging two targets at once, an F-80 as well as an F-89. Granted, these guys don't necessarily fly their planes to perfection, they don't necessarily pick the best fights that they can do. Regardless, the fact that I can just hold S, bleed these guys energy, and begin to turn inside of them, juggling two targets at once, is pretty silly. As some of you may have noticed, I got incredibly lucky at the beginning of this fight. The F-89B had a pretty free shot on me. I really misjudged and miscalculated. I was pretty distracted at the time, I wasn't paying attention, and I very, very easily could have died right there. Big mistake on my part. Again, I'm just lucky he missed. But ever since that point on, I had completely controlled the fight, basically until the end, and when I shot both of them. And it pretty much all comes down to this aircraft is ridiculous. The engine performance is basically the same thrust as the MiG-15 at 8.3, I think it's at right now, the non-BIS MiG-15. It actually has more thrust, more raw thrust than the MiG-15 between its two engines. However, its thrust to weight is a little bit worse. So the engine performance, not quite as effective as the MiG-15 in practice, but it's pretty damn close, and the fact that it's sitting at 7.0 is laughable and at the same time extremely sad. There is almost nothing at 7.0 that's going to outrun you, except maybe the F-84B, and I'm pretty sure that's even 7.3. Nonetheless, the F-84B, I'm pretty sure only top speeds you, and in practice most of the time it's not going to be faster than you just because you accelerate up to top speed a lot faster than he does. Basically, all you need to know is that these engines are ridiculously cracked for a 7.0. You're going to be able to out energy fight pretty much everything at the battle rating, if not everything at the battle rating. You're going to out accelerate most jets, if not, again, all jets, and you're going to outspeed most jets. Except for the F-80, maybe the F-84, and that's only in the top-end department. Maneuverability-wise, it does not lack at all either. It's not necessarily the best in all aspects of maneuverability, but it's by far from the worst, and it's kind of an all-around maneuverability plane. You can turn inside of a lot of 7.0s. The only problem with a lot of turn fighting at this battle rating is if people air brake you, there's not going to be a whole lot you're going to be doing to stay inside of their turn radius because they're going to be bleeding a lot of speed, a lot of energy, and they're going to be able to turn inside your turn circle. You, as an Su-11, do not have an air brake, so bleeding energy is going to be pretty damn hard. Given the engine performance of this plane, I really don't recommend getting into a typical turn fight type dogfight. I would lean more on the side of energy fighting with this plane, but my point is that it can absolutely engage in some turn fights if it really has to. That being said, of course, don't go turn fighting props, you're pretty much always going to lose, and don't go turn fighting any meteors because you will also almost always lose. The roll rate is not the best, but by no means not the worst. And the rudder works at most speeds, but there are certain situations where you're going to experience a little bit of rudder lockup. It's going to be a little difficult to get your nose on target in very particular circumstances, but overall, it's not bad with something like, say, the F-100. The armament is exactly the same as the MiG-15. You've got your 137mm and your 223s, except you get a little bit more ammo in your 23mm cannons, so there's just slightly more endurance than with the MiG-15 as far as gun kills go. Really, if you get good at aiming these guns though, you're pretty much never going to have to go reload in either of them, unless of course you're having a bad day aiming, which everybody does sometimes. Point being, they one-shot pretty much everything that they hit. Looking up in the battle rating bracket, at worst, absolutely worst, it's going to be fighting 8.0s in a full up tier. Which, yeah, most of the time, all the 8.0s are probably going to have you. Of course, you can win fights against them, but for the most part, all the 8.0s are going to outperform you in most flight characteristic aspects. 7.7, however, the Su-11 can honestly hang with most, if not all, 7.7s, and in my opinion, it's probably on the same level of effectiveness as, say, the F-84G, which also sits at battle rating 7.7, and I think that they are pretty equal matches for each other. The F-84 has a little bit more engine power, at least in the speed department, and the Su-11 has a little bit better energy retention, as I'm sure you're aware that the F-84s kind of bleed speed rather quickly, just from dumping all of their speed in 1 or 2 turns. The F-84 and the Su-11 are, well, the F-84G and the Su-11 are going to hit similar top speeds though still, so I do think it is a pretty fair matchup, and in my opinion, the Su-11 should absolutely be 7.7 BR. If not 7.3, just to make a couple props a little bit happier, but in the end of the day, 7.3 is not that big of a change from 7.0, and I would much rather see 7.7. At battle rating 7.0, you're going to be seeing prop matches really quite often, and it's nothing short of straight up bullying. This is debatably, but in my opinion, absolutely the most broken plane in RRB, just because the amount of prop matches you're going to be getting, 6.0 down tiers, and the fact that at 7.7 you're honestly kind of balanced more so than outmatched, and even at 8.0, while you're technically outmatched, you can still make it work. If you're looking to pick up a Russian premium to help you grind the tree, I would absolutely recommend the Su-11 over any of the other premiums. I know it's not a rank 6 premium, so it's not going to help you research into the rank 7 jets, which is a bummer, but at the same time, I honestly believe that the Su-11 is the best bang for your buck. Being a rank 5, it will still give you a premium bonus research up to rank 6, which is close enough, honestly. And you're just going to be winning so many games because Russian 7.0 to 7.7 absolutely dominates due to a whole line of under-tiered planes. And as a result, you're going to be winning a lot of matches, and when you win matches, you get that sweet, sweet victory bonus RP. Now the downside to that is sometimes your teams are just going to be stomping everyone so hard that you're not going to be doing a whole lot in terms of activity in your match, so your RP gains and your Silver Lion gains might not be as much as, say, you get in a 4-kill game when you're only getting 1 or 2 with the Su-11, but in the end I definitely think it's still worth it for grinding, because even though you are getting only 1 or 2 kills a game with the Su-11, you're going to be winning pretty much every single game, and that sure as hell beats getting 4 kills, 3-4 kills, but losing 50% of your matches. On top of that, if you're already relatively experienced in jet combat, which in my opinion you probably should be before you go dumping $40 or $50 on a premium, but if you are already experienced, you're going to be doing a lot better in the Su-11 than you will in, say, a Yak-38, and you're going to be getting more kills per game more than likely, as well as also going to have more control over whether or not your team wins or loses, and therefore your win rate is going to be a lot better. Now I'm going to at least try to spend a little bit of time talking about the gameplay. As you just saw on screen, I went bomber hunting because, honestly, one of the most annoying things about playing the Su-11, or really any 7.0, is having to go up and climb to 8,000 meters altitude to go ahead and kill that last B-29, who's just been climbing to space ever since he dropped his bombs in the very beginning of the game. Very frustrating, so I'd rather just go ahead and get him out of the match early so I don't have to deal with it later. And now we've dove down and we're going to actually engage some of the fighters. I really should die in a couple portions of this clip here as well. I don't really expect people to be on my 6, or I don't notice them sneaking up onto my 6 until I start hearing 50 cal rounds whiz by me, and as you know, the average 50 cal aimer can't shoot for shit, so none of them actually end up hitting me, at least not critically, and I have time to react and get out of the way. Lucky snipe onto the P85, but after we kill him, we immediately check our 6 and try to deal with whoever's behind us. F84, he seems to be going towards somebody else, or at least defending against from one of my teammates, so we're going to pull into him. Notice that he tries to go for a head-on. Had he fully committed to that head-on with me right there, I would have pulled off, but I had noticed that his nose position was still facing toward the ground for the most part, so I knew I could kind of stick that shot there. Unfortunately, don't get one in, and now we're pretty much going to be chasing him. He does have to kind of defend himself against other teammates, which is going to help me because that means he's got to bleed his speed and can't just run away from me the entire time. Right there, I definitely should have died. Luckily, he just missed his shots, and now that he's flown right past me, I'm going to go ahead and focus my attention back onto the target in front of me, just because I noticed that he'd bled a lot of energy defending against from my teammates, and that's pretty much a free kill for me at that point. I'd be a fool not to take it. Whenever you can eliminate a possible gun from the match, it's definitely better, even if somebody is a more dangerous target. Say you want to focus somebody that has an advantage over you. If somebody's presenting themselves as a free kill, just go ahead and take it, because it's a lot safer to just go ahead and get them out of the match than to risk having another gun pointing at you because you decided not to fully eliminate them because you were worried about somebody that had a little bit more of an advantageous position over you. Now, of course, there are always exceptions to something like that, but as a general rule of thumb, typically going after the weaker target is the correct choice in most situations. When given a full down tier like this one, we have a 6.0 match full of props and JU-288s. And when you see something like that, you're going to be playing really aggressive because it's a great opportunity to net yourself extreme amounts of RP and SL. There is a jet right in front of me. I think that's a jet anyways, but I mean, this bomber's going back to base. I don't want him to get back to base. I don't want him to rearm. I don't want him to camp the airfield. I don't want him to be a problem later in the match, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to eliminate him early before he can make it home. Free kill, and we have a 262. I know that's the 50mm 262, so I'm a little bit more risky with that head-on. He could have killed me there. I did stick it a little bit too long. Thankfully, that 50mm is not the easiest thing to get kills with, and we're just going to go ahead and turn around and try to re-engage the two targets in front of us. There was somebody off behind my 6 right now, but he was a good distance away. He's not going to catch me. He's in a prop, so I know I'm safe to go ahead and just ignore him for now. Had the guy currently behind me been something fast like an F-84 or an F-80, then I wouldn't have just flipped myself around like that and chased the 262 that I had just head on. But I knew, like I said, that he was a slow target. I knew he wouldn't catch me if I just 180'd like that, and that's why I decided to make that decision. We end up getting the 262, so it kind of pays off in the end, and we still have plenty of energy to go ahead and fight these props. I'm going to try to pick up as much speed as I can because I don't have any altitude, so if I do get caught slow, there is no room for me to dive away from the props, and if you get caught slow in front of a prop with no altitude, you're as good as dead because there's going to be no outmaneuvering them. I think I take a little bit of friendly fire there as I gun down that Hornet. He full commit head on with a teammate, and I ended up flying into the teammate's spray at the end. Very unfortunate, but it is relatively minor damage, so I should be good to go, especially considering my competition right now. And this is the absurdity of the Su-11. None of these planes can go past, I don't know, 600 kilometers an hour in a straight line. Maybe less than that. I'm not the prop guy, as many of you know, but regardless, you can outperform these guys all day long, and the only chance of them actually getting a kill on you is if you basically let them. And of course, that can happen. I've died to props once in a while, everybody makes mistakes, but for the most part, As long as you just keep your energy and stay fast, you're going to be invincible in a game like this. I've got a Ki 83 behind me, but a Ju 288 in front of me. I don't want to turn around to engage the Ki 83 because I'm not going to be able to keep enough energy after making that turn to actually fight him. He'll just turn right on around and gun me down out of the sky, and I'm not going to be outmaneuvering him. But I do turn toward the 288. I don't turn so hard to where I give him a good intercepting angle to get into gun range, but I do turn just enough to set me on course toward this 288. My teammates deal with the Ki 83, and I pretty much have a free pass at this point to start cleaning up bombers. Quick, scuffed bomber killing tutorial. Ideally, if you can help it, you want to try to come in at an angle that is going to force them to calculate lead on two different axes. So I'm coming in from the side, so he's going to have to lead in front of my nose, as well as I'm going to attempt to come in at a slight angle downward. It could have been a lot better, but honestly, I wasn't too worried. I have 37mm and 223s. I just have to hit him once, and he's going to blow up out of the sky. But had I had something with a little bit weaker armament where I'd have to have a little bit more time on target, having a multi-lead angle is going to help you stay alive a little bit longer when fighting bombers. Last guy is also a Ju 288 who I end up just finding and killing. Free RP, ends up being like a 7-kill game, and I'd love to be able to brag about that, but honestly that's not too hard to do in the Su-11, and hence why I think it's a pretty damn good grinder, and ultimately one of the most broken planes in AirRB currently. The battle rate is just simply too low. I think it should easily be 7.3, but if I had it my way, it would be 7.7, where I think it's a little bit more competitive, at least for the other nations. That's going to do it for the Su-11. Let me know down in the comments below what you want to see on the most broken planes in ARB next. I probably, more than likely, the next video will be on the Tomcat's official release into the live server. We're going to play around with it, share a little bit of thoughts and opinions, and see how it actually comes into the game, and how, if at all, it changes the meta. If you like the lower tier jet videos, also let me know. If you don't, then also let me know. Any feedback is appreciated. I personally like doing lower tier things, so if it can actually maintain stable viewership, hopefully I can add a few more jets in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope we'll see you in the next one. See ya.